Hi everybody, welcome to Accounting Ed. My name is Bali Kehel. I'm joined with Dr. Bob Menady. Today we'll be talking about data breaches. This is a continuing series which we have been happening on Accounting Ed, and I want to put a light on a new data breach which just came out, and that is around Uber's data breach. This is a 57 million record data breach. Uber is a big company. It's got a 90 billion capital market worth, and we're going to talk a little bit about this data breach. So Dr. Bob, can you tell me a little bit about this data breach and what all information is available for it? I know it's pretty new right at this stage.
Yeah, those of you who have watched my previous Accounting Ed updates, you've seen discussion on various data breaches, including Equifax, Yahoo, and others. And this one isn't as big as those. Yahoo was $1.5 billion. Equifax was 147 million. We're only talking about 57 million people's information being compromised. But there were some interesting twists and turns on this. Now, first of all, it's not the first time Uber's been hacked. They were hacked back in 2014. So at that point in time, they should have put good internal controls in place to help prevent or detect data breaches. Now, what happened with this particular data breach that makes it interesting is, they got the personal information from Uber's customers. They got personal information, including driver's license numbers from the Uber drivers, which will make it very easy to steal the driver's identities. Because if I've got your driver's license, it becomes very easy to create a fake ID using your information and my picture, so I can create a fake driver's license or other ID. Now, the next step on this is the fact that they didn't disclose it right away. And this may end up turning to be a very, very big issue for them. In 2016, the California legislature passed a law that requires companies to disclose and notify people whose personal information was compromised in the most expedient manner possible. Well, Uber waited over a year before they decided to notify anybody. Now, the California law also requires if more than 500 California residents are involved in the data breach, they have to notify the California Attorney General's office. And I haven't seen anything in the news yet that notification was made. And also remember, in all the other states they operate, there's only 3 states left who don't require disclosure when there's a data breach. And so in the 47 states they're operating in that require disclosure, this should have been done, but they waited a year. Then the interesting, twist,
yes.
I want to get into the interesting twist on this is what Uber did is they decided, let's pay off the criminals to have them say they're going to delete the information, and we're going to pay them to not talk about it, not tell anybody that there was a data breach, so that in effect we can cover it up and hide it, and now we don't have to tell people there's information was compromised. Can you see the issues?
No, I see that, and the viewers who are watching also, this actually is the most unique and one of its kind data breach. As Dr. Bob mentioned earlier, that it's not a big number here, it's the ethics of the company, the compliance rules or regulations which they are following internally, and how they treated this and how this news is coming out. Though it's pretty new, as Dr. Bob just mentioned, but then again, paying off the bad guys, 100,000 for I don't know what, still, there is some, speculation on that. There are different news articles coming, but we will come to know a little bit more on it, but that's unheard of so far.
Well, another interesting twist on this that was reported by Fox News is apparently the management team in Uber hid the data breach from the CEO. So the head of the company had no clue that this data breach had occurred while they were dealing with the criminals to cover it up.
Is this the new CEO which Uber has kind of replaced with the older CEO?
Yeah, again, that's according to Fox News this morning.
Wow, I wouldn't be surprised. So there's a lot going on, and I think so this is a very critical time, especially when it comes down to protecting data and of course, and securing your assets and knowing about what is going on out there and handling it in the right way. And we have a lot of courses and classes which Dr. Bob has taught in Accounting Ed, which kind of give you more information on to deal with similar situations.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to look at putting internal controls in place to prevent data breaches from happening, having response teams in place so that we can take action if a data breach occurs. And I'm always going to say, if you want a classic example of what not to do after a data breach, it's don't collude with the criminals to get rid of the data and hide the fact that the data breach occurred, because number one, you can't trust the criminals. Do you really think the criminals are going to erase all that data? Or are they simply going to take your money, and once your check clears, once they've cashed your bitcoins or virtual currency, so to speak, they're going to go ahead and sell that data anyway? Because remember, they're criminals. They're not the most ethical people on the planet.
Definitely, it's something to look out for. And is there any specific courses and classes which we have in Accounting Ed which you would want people to look at? I know you talked about ethics and the other classes which you would recommend in this particular scenario.
Well, absolutely. In the Accounting Ed platform, we have a class on data breaches. We also have one on cybersecurity. And there are a number of very good cybersecurity programs on Cyber Training 365 that talk about how to protect your computer systems and make sure that you don't become a victim. And remember, even for small companies, a study done by the Ponemon Institute that was funded by IBM showed that in 2016, the average cost for a data breach where less than 100,000 individuals' information was compromised is going to be over $7 million. And we know when we get into these large data breaches where we're talking tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people's information being compromised, the cost to the organization is in the billions, which might explain why you'd spend $100,000 to make sure nobody found out about it.
Well, it's a very changing and a different world right now. Data breaches are becoming more and more common. The size has increased, and definitely new ways on how people are trying to evade press or trying to do something what just Uber did. And as you said, this will be, I think, so an example for companies what not to do.
Well, exactly, because we all know when customers realize their personal information, their credit cards, their social security numbers, anything else is being compromised because of a data breach at a bank or a CPA firm or a law office or a governmental entity, they panic. They don't want to have their information used. It's hard enough to maintain your privacy and avoid identity theft in today's world. And by the way, we also have a class on protecting yourself from identity theft if you've been notified that your information's been compromised.
No, that's really great. Well, thank you for sharing all that insightful information, Dr. Bob, and all of the users who are joining us and the new viewers who have just joined our blog. We do talk about all the latest and greatest data breaches and technology changes in accounting, and also related to forensic and cybersecurity through our blog series. Well, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.